moving on to our last subject of the night, and that is the fact that it seems like everywhere you turn nowadays, a major game is coming out with a beta. And if you don't know what a beta is, it's usually a smaller release of just a segment, a more finished part of a game. Usually it's a multiplayer faucet.
Well,
Um,
lately, that's what it's been.
yeah,
Uh,
lately it's been multiplayer. It's not always multiplayer.
I mean,
But they
lately it's
release
been the small aspect because traditionally betas were or could be pretty much the whole game that are pre-released. But go on. But lately there
No,
hasn't
no,
been
yeah,
any
yeah,
big
no.
ones.
I mean, traditionally speaking, you also didn't have the access to the betas we're talking about. But you're right, you're right. Usually, it was like, here you go, here, play this game, tell us what you think is good and what you think is bad. Now they're saying, here, play this segment of the game, let us know what you think. Especially with multiplayer, like they'll give you several maps you can play with multiplayer. Like a game, Payday 2, is a game about robbing a bank, and the demo was pretty much a beta, where they let you get online and join up with other people and rob banks, which was really, really cool. And at E3 this year, and now I think one or two of these was announced before E3, but they came out with, I counted 4 betas. There could be more than that, but I counted 4 while I was watching. And those 4 were Halo 5, you have Battlefield Hardline, you have Fable Legends, and this other game called Landmark, all coming out with betas in the near future. And now I think this is pretty awesome for gaming in general, because you have games like we talked about a couple weeks ago, Unreal 4. They're pretty much opening up the entire development stages to people to give their input on them. Like they're doing pre-alpha builds, you're allowed to give input on that. Alpha builds, you're allowed to give input on that. The beta is going to be open to everybody. They want input on that. And this is really just a good way of game developers saying, here, we think this is a good idea. What do you think? And now I'm sure there's going to be people sending feedback like, ugh, your game sucks, man. But then there's also going to be people saying stuff like, hey, I would think it would be smoother if you did this, or what if you added this weapon to it, or what if this did this, and it just adds elements to the games, because forever people have been adding on to the games. I mean, if you are a PC gamer, you know about mods. And mods are a good way of just extending the life of the game. You have some mods like for not Skyrim 4, Elder Scrolls 4, which was Oblivion. You had people make mods that actually made it into Skyrim. The whole weapon crafting system, that was from a mod from Oblivion, which Bethesda said, hey, that's a good idea. We're putting it into Skyrim. So you have really cool things like Halo 5. You actually can get this. They're coming out with a Halo collection, which you can play Halo 1 Anniversary. Halo 2, they announced an anniversary for that. Halo 3 and Halo 4 are all going to be on one disc, which I just think is absurd for one disc. That's a lot of games for one disc. But then when you get that,
like Blu-rays can store a lot more information than anything's really using. So
that's true. That very true. But so they're going to say, and they did this with Halo 3 ODST. They actually had a Halo Reach beta in there, and I actually got ODST mostly because that I could get into the beta for Halo Reach, and then I didn't really like the multiplayer of Halo Reach, but then I didn't have to buy Halo Reach afterwards, and I saved myself from just getting it because it's a Halo game.
Do you remember, too, the beta for Halo 3 was originally released with Crackdown?
That's true. That's right. Halo likes to release betas, and they get a lot of good input and a lot of good feedback, and then they put out a game with some of the most polished and best multiplayer, because, I mean, that's what a lot of people are looking at those games for. Because, to be honest with you, Halo 3, I still hadn't beaten that game, and when I first got that for 360, that was the game that made me want to get 360. And I probably put like a couple days worth of playtime online multiplayer and like 0 time in the campaign. So
yeah, that was honestly that was the primary FPS that I played was Halo 3. I had played Halo 1 and 2 a good bit, and I played others, but I played Halo 3. That kind of hit the spot. I remember at the same time that you had it, I was when I was first back from New York when I was up there. And I played that for hours too. We actually shared an account. And
yeah, well, and leveled our guy up really quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was awesome. I didn't mind. I was like, hey, I just jumped up 5 levels. Sweet, Brendan must have been playing. So yeah, so that's really cool. And Battlefield Hardline, and they released actually during the EA press conference. They had, or maybe that was the Microsoft press conference. No, I think it was the EA press conference. But they showed it, and they were showing just all these live looks, and it actually launched right after the press conference was done. They said, okay, boom, all the servers are on. If you have PS4 and a Battlefield 4 game, you just go click on Battlefield 4 and it says, do you want to download the Battlefield Hardline beta? And sure. And that's a really cool looking game. It looks like you're going to be robbers versus cops. I mean, it's like cowboys and Indians. You know, you have the two sides that is everybody's favorite, you know, rivals to butt heads. And I mean, it just looked amazing. You can control police helicopters if you're the police and send squad cars different areas, or if you're the bad guys, you have different explosive weapons on your side, and you can actually jump in your own helicopters for escape. And that looked really, really cool. And again, I'm sure they're going to get a ton of feedback like, hey, instead of just doing, you know, rob an armored car or rob a bank, why don't you have them rob a jewelry store? You know, different things, you know, just to add depth to the whole thing.
Now, so when we talk about that, though, there's something about the trend in like just releasing all these betas that I a little bit wonder about. Some of them are starting to seem like they're just using the term beta to really mean playable demo.
Yeah.
Like, remember you used to get all those playable early demos that, you know, stuff would change between the demo and the release but it would give you that taste and people liked. Some of these betas seem like that's really what it is. For multiplayer betas, I also understand why we see that more now, because multiplayer is difficult to, especially like big servers, that's difficult to test out before you have massive numbers of people, because that's what you need to test out, is massive number of people, which you didn't really have that problem before. So that makes sense that we are seeing more of these multiplayer betas.
Well, and like one of the big complaints about Battlefield 4 when it first came out was that the servers were no good, and I think this is also EA's way of saying, hey, look, you're not going to have any of these server problems. It's going to be good to go. So I'm cool with kind of morphing beta into almost demo as well. Yeah. It's like a demo beta. But that's pretty cool.
The reason why I bring that up, though, is because, I mean, I've been in the testing community. I actually was a QA tester, not for game development, for other software. But I've known people that were in QA testing for gaming, and I have done beta testing, for more serious beta testing for gaming. There are some companies that will release these betas, and really it is just an advertisement demo. That maybe it's just for them to test their servers, and some of them will be responsive to the feedback from these beta testers. Some of them kind of just ignore it. And they're not mean about it or anything, but they don't bother. It's really wasn't the point for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the quality of beta tester comments coming back, because a lot of them, if you look at it, it's like, this game sucks. You should have more explosions. Like
that's actually more valuable than people think. Like, yeah, that sounds like a crappy comment. That is, and knowing what a real like bug report should be. Yeah, that's terrible. I can tell you what a real bug report should be, but I've known people that can do real bug reports, and they'll release this to some companies, and some will be very receptive, and they'll get something fixed and everything. Some just like, whatever. It goes to a mailbox that has an auto reply and doesn't really get checked.
Thank you for your comment. We will not read it.
But even though like, oh, this game sucks, can be somewhat valuable. If you get too much of that, that means maybe you need to rethink things. You know?
Exactly. I mean, it's a good way for them to at least judge what the public thinks of the game. If they think, hey, this is great just the way it is, maybe they don't do much to it. But if people are like, hey, you need some work here and there, maybe they address those things. And like there's a game, Fable Legends, another one of the betas announced. And I think this is a really cool concept with the beta. What they're doing is it's pretty much 4 versus 1. We talked about some of this last week, actually. Ryan Celsius showed us a video of Evolve, which is a similar principle. But it's pretty much you have a dungeon master who lays out a dungeon, says, okay, bad guys will spawn here, we'll have traps here, we'll have a super monster here, and then this is where the boss is. And then the 4 players have to run through it and try to beat everything. So I can see where there's a lot of fixes, like say, hey, you should add more, bad guys to be able to spawn, or you should need more traps, or hey, this just doesn't feel right. Just cool ways to tweak that. I could see more games like that being able to be tweaked rather than the big games like the Battlefield Hardline or the Halo 5s. So
yeah, those are, like I said, at least for their multiplayer, that's probably mostly about stress testing the servers to see if they can handle the load of all the people in there. there's going to be still some bugs that could be found by other people, but I think the real reason why they release those is to just make sure that their servers can handle the load of lots of people looking for games, matchmaking, having however many they're going to allow on a map in a map at a time at any given time. Make sure they can handle 20,000 people, 30,000 people, however many they expect in the game at a time. In games on their servers at a time, whatever they need to do.
Head off any problems at the pass. Make sure it's going through.
And then that's stuff that they just need to have people on to test. And
that too.
Yeah. So they'll get that.
But then the last beta that was really revealed today was called Landmark, and I believe it's supposed to be like you're underground and you're building stuff. It's kind of like a Minecraft game with better graphics. But the coolest thing about that one is that it'll be released through Humble Bundle. And if you don't know what Humble Bundle is, it's a bunch of game developers put a bunch of their games up for really, really cheap. You pretty much pay as much as you want, and all the proceeds go to charity. And that is your way into this beta. So I really want to talk about that more because of Humble Bundle, and that's just such a great thing.
I love Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle.
Humble Bundle.
Most of my PC games, and definitely almost all of my Android games, come from Humble Bundle. They're great. You actually have the option to choose where money goes. They always are tied up with some charity, just like Brian said, and you can give all the money and however much money you want to the charities. You can also split it up and give some of it to the developers or some of it to Humble Bundle so they can maintain their servers, or you could do whatever split you want. They give you that kind of control, which is cool. I used to really like it because they made sure that a lot of games were very cross-platform, so you could play it on Windows, you could play it on your Mac OS X, you could even play it on Linux or Android, sometimes iOS in there, sometimes other stuff. So that was always really cool for what they did. And they would help even a lot of developers make their games more cross-platform. They've done a little less of that lately, but they always try to get some out there to help these indie developers get out there and help get more games out to more audiences, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and help all charity.
I mean, yeah, they're doing something good for people and giving people what they want. Giving us games that we want and saying, hey, pay as much as you want. I hope most people are better than just saying, here's a penny. But it goes to a good case.
They give you incentives, like if you pay above the average, right? They always say you get a couple extra games, which is cool because the average is not that high.
I believe Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition, which had Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, is your reward for paying over the average. So that they do that. But
yeah, I always pay above the average because I want those extra games. But also like whatever I pay above the average still is going to be for the quality of games that we're getting and the number of games you end up getting.
Yeah,
I'm still saving so much money. So
yeah. But let us know what you think about the betas coming out. Is there one of these betas you're looking forward to playing more? Are you already part of one of these betas? Let us know how that's working out. Of course, comments down below. Words to My Face, @Words to My Face on Twitter, wordstomyface.com. We'd love to hear from you and let you know what you think.